You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are these things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. As always, the Chris Voss Show gives you the Chris Voss Show glow. I'm drinking a cup of it right now. It might be coffee, but it might also be the Chris Voss Show glow on top of it. That is the caffeine that gives me that glow. So make sure you're going to get the glow and share it with your friends, because sharing the glow is, I don't know what the hell. Just share the glow, damn it. That's my point.
Well, sharing's caring, right?
Sharing is caring. Don't be a hater and love your fellow man. I might use that in the future, Robert. So go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places there are on the internet that you can find the Chris Voss Show. There you go. So today we have Robert Feldman, the CEO, president, and founder of Voss Insurance Services, on the show to talk about what's going on in the insurance industry, getting your home insured, because there's been kind of some flight of some different insurance companies across the nation that are like, we're not doing that anymore, like Florida, California especially. So we're going to get into that and some of the things that are happening. Welcome to the show. How are you, Robert?
Good. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me on today.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. So give us your .com. Where can people find out more about you on the interwebs?
So it's Voss, W-O-W-S. Everyone always forgets the S, Chris. W-O-W-S insurance.com.
Wows. I like that. Do you ever walk up to people and just be like, hey, I'm from Wows? Like, just you punch it?
Oh, it's even better when we do different events or different trades. We have these big, loud booth that screams Wows. And it's just you can't miss it. If you're somewhere where I am, you're definitely gonna know it.
I like people tell that about me, but it's mostly because I eat a lot of Taco Bell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, I smell Chris Voss coming by.
Yeah, exactly. With the barbecue, same thing. Smokers, all kinds of good stuff.
Oh yeah, when you go to Austin, Texas too, for South by Southwest or any place in Texas, I think the barbecue. Yep. So tell us give us a 30,000 overview of what you guys do there at Wows.
Voss Insurance was designed and built actually to kind of change I used Einstein's theory of insanity, Chris. The insurance market in the Western United States, California specifically, has been doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We built a program to change how insurance works. Very successful, very popular. There's different layers of insurance, and it's got a lot of great features. We're going to affect change. You know, we are one of our entities is an MGA wholesaler, so we help bring insurance carriers in. We launched this new insurance program, and what's that old story about fighting the fight, right, Chris? Mm-hmm. We're fighting the fight, and we're going to affect change in California and in the Western United States as time goes on to roll, because these are not just a California problem, Chris, with homes being non-renewed. Right now, it's the Western United States, Nevada. You're seeing problems in Arizona. You're seeing problems in Montana, Oregon, Washington. I mean, places like Park City, Utah are having a terrible time with insurance at this point. So,
really? Park City, Utah? Huh.
Park City, Utah. I mean, all the different fire zone areas across about the Western United States are really kind of following California's footsteps, I'm sorry to say, at this point.
Wow. And what prompted this sudden change where everyone's like, yeah, we're not insuring stuff anymore? Like, what was the proponent behind it?
There's two major reasons. Whose
fault is it that we can blame?
Well, exactly. It's the whole story. Finger pointing. No finger pointing here. Actually, believe it or not, I would jokingly say it's one of those moments, Chris, where everybody's at fault. And here's why. Number one reason that really affects insurance companies in California, and really it sounds counterproductive, is oversaturation of market. An example, State Farm right now is going through a horrific non-renewals going across California right now.
Wow.
They're non-renewing 30,000 homes potentially across California. There's a little city just outside of Malibu called the Pacific Palisades, those that aren't familiar on your podcast. It's just outside the Pacific Palisades. Beautiful area. they're non-renewing 1,626 homes.
Wow.
That's 69% of the total homes in that zip code, of that area.
Holy crap.
So what the number one problem, first and foremost, I mean, Chris, if you and I were to pull the definition of insurance, really a definition of insurance is diversification of risk, diversifying risk. So what has happened is we've had insurance companies get oversaturated in different areas, in different markets, where there's too much they've taken on too much capacity in one area. That's the number one reason why carriers are back. Second one and big one is really some internal problems with policies. Smoke damage and smoke damage related things have really hammered the insurance companies with the fires throughout California.
Yeah. It's so has insurance companies just reached a point where it's just not profitable for them, or whether, wasn't there some regulations from the legislature in Florida that kind of helped start the collapse over there?
Well, and that's kind of the scary thing is we're kind of going down that same road. And so what happens with this is really how we re-engineered the insurance, Chris, is really a really incredible way. First of all, the policies we built are the first policies in the history of California fully transferable from sellers to buyers. Chris, when you go to sell your house, the buyer knows that they can assume your insurance policy. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
If you think about it from an insurance standpoint on homes, the companies have done things for so long. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. I mean, 25-year broker, right? Insurance broker. Yeah. I would ask the questions. It would drive me crazy, Chris. And it's the worst answer. If being as hyper as I am, and you talk about coffee and you talk about glow, I've got that natural thing, Chris. I kind of bounce off on my own. Really what would get me really upset is I would ask a question like, why are claims following a consumer if it's a house? I understand a car, I understand other things, but if a pipe breaks in a wall, Chris, why are you responsible if you buy a brand different house?
Yeah.
That's not your claim. So what we're doing is we're re-engineering the insurance first and foremost as the example to make it transferable from seller to buyer, which then shows the insurance companies a pattern of what this house and what the history of this house is to make the insurability easier.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can't, I understand that it's really hard to sell a house now in Florida and stuff. If you can't, if it's not insured prior, right?
If you can't get insurance on the house, it could be. Think about this: if you don't have insurance for a house right now, the only way you can have a buyer come in and buy it is if they're paying all cash. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But obviously, if a property, you're talking about forcing down the cost of your house or the sale price of your house. Because if your only buyer for your house is someone who's paying cash and they know that, means what's that old supply and demand theory, Chris? If all demand's down and supply gets heavy, what happens to pricing? It drops.
Yeah.
So,
there you go.
And that's what we're working on to fix.
There you go. Now, do you guys only service California right now?
California currently, by the way, shout out Nevada. I love Nevada, by the way. Nevada State Regulators.
We love Vegas.
And you know what? They've been a great team to work with. They actually, more so than any state that we've dealt with so far, have been really trying to get on the front of it, Chris. They see the problems in the northern part of Nevada, and they're trying to have our program expand into the northern Nevada area just for the fact that because they're starting to see the same problems in California, basically. Tahoe, Incline Village, those areas are all starting to run into the same problems. And it's great to work with them.
Okay. Now, you bill on your website, unable to get a policy dropped by your previous insurance company. You guys offer specialized coverage for luxury homes and fire-prone areas and work with brokers and carriers and homeowners. So it's possible to work with you guys through my current, if I have an agent for insurance, maybe if they reach out to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris, kind of funny you say that. I'm in the middle of this is day 8 and 9 of an 18-day spin where I'm going to be home. I'm home actually in Los Angeles for like 2 days of 18. So I was in Bermuda. So this Wednesday, actually, I'll be heading to Palm Desert to appoint probably another additional 250 to 500 brokerages, insurance brokerages across California.
Nice.
Big trade show. We're really banging the drums. I've been a past speaker for the California Association of Realtors. I'm spreading the word out about this new program because again, like as I mentioned earlier, we got to affect change.
Yeah.
It's got to change.
And it's in a crisis point, I think, at this point, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And what I'm really scared about is I feel like I'm the one running, no pun intended, I'm the one running into the fire while everyone's running out. Is the joke. So
I like that. That works. There you go.
We're running in, and we're bringing
running in
with us. We're bringing carriers with us back.
So is a couple questions on that billing that you use on your website.
Yep.
Is it only for luxury homes, or is it for all homes? Of course, just about every home.
We've been successfully be able to bring in other carriers right now. So we're helping bring companies in across the board. So here's I'm going to get rid of one of the myths right now. Right now, we're going to get rid of Chris. And there's a lot of bad media. I think it goes both ways. A lot of bad information, not bad media, but bad information. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of brokers out there currently saying that, hey, your 2,500 square foot house can only be insured with the California Fair Plan. That's the policy of last resort. Mm-hmm. That is completely and totally incorrect. We have been able to help multiple carriers come into California. Mm-hmm. We work with multiple carriers outside of our program of WOWs to help bring in and stabilize the market. Because there's not going to be any one insurance company that's going to solve this, Chris. What's the old story about all hands on deck? Military term?
All hands on deck. Yeah,
all hands on deck. We got to be able to bring everybody back in. Because if not, I'm going to end up with 69% of a market. And what happens to me? Yeah, I have to start canceling too.
Yeah, if something happens. So, and then also, are you a resort carrier in the case that I've been dropped or unable to get a policy? Like, would you say you're a normal insurance carrier if I've never been dropped and I'm just have insurance and everything's going fine? Am I going for you?
Yep, absolutely, Chris. And I would say here's the thing. The worst case scenario, we're going to help you get to the right spot, is what I would say. You know, with us being a MGA wholesaler, I have a pretty deep knowledge of the market and where carriers are right now. So there are sometimes, we know we win about 83.6% of the time. Mm-hmm. But we also help people on the other, 16% in change. We help them get to the right spots. Right now, it's no longer as sad as they say, Chris. It's no longer about competition in California. It's more about who actually can write a policy. Oh. And that's a pretty scary thing.
Yeah. And it's getting harder and harder. What do you see the foreseeable future of what's going on in insurance right now in states like California and other places?
Mm-hmm. Right now, obviously, it's into a pretty rough direction right now. Mm-hmm. You're seeing carriers pulling out. I mean, nationwide private client. I mean, it's a laundry list of the who's that are canceling and are not writing policies. I mean, big names, State Farm, all states shut down. Nationwide, is shut down. Travelers is very crippled at this point. Big names across the board are no longer writing insurance policies. And so what's happening is I'd like to say we're bottoming out, but we're going to see a pretty rough time over the next couple of months as we continue to build in what we're doing with the WOWs program. Chris, here's the craziest thing ever. We're going to get copied. I know we're going to get copied. And to be honest with you, it needs to be copied in what we're doing. Yeah. Because obviously you can't have insurance companies take 15, 20, 30% of a market, a given area. They get knocked out, one fire, they're done. Wow. Spreading the risks across California from an actuarial standpoint exponentially brings the rate down. And that's where we come into play.
There you go. It scales. I mean, this is almost something like I've been sitting around a lot lately going, why doesn't the government get in on this and do something? Why don't they, isn't there some sort of regulation or something they could be doing to fix it? Well, the Department of Insurance is involved, Chris, to be fair. They're involved. I gave testimony to the state regulators. I've actually to a consultant for the state assembly for California. Mm-hmm. I just think that sometimes what happens is, and I use a terrible analogy. I'm a George Patton fan. I watched the movie 8 million times. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need a field general to be able to get involved and tell you what really being in the trenches. That's what we are. Why I've been very successful working with the London reinsurance carriers and really bringing capacity and building for the WOWs program is we're making street adjustments that make sense to them. Mm-hmm. Where right now the market doesn't make sense. And so by making the adjustments, this is good for not only consumers, but this is good for the insurance companies. It's good for the brokers. It's a win-win. One of those rare times you get the win-win-win. It sounds like maybe the insurance companies have just been running for so long, so many decades. It's kind of really time for innovation and disruption, maybe.
And that's disruption's already happened. Mm-hmm. So now the innovation's coming in with what we're doing as an example. We're fixing insurance. Mm-hmm. That's what I keep saying when I'm speaking at different association meetings for the realtor associations or different consumer groups or everywhere I speak. I was lucky enough to be on Good Day LA. I'm talking about that very thing. I'm talking about disruption, and then this is the solution. We have to have a solution to fix.
Yeah. Necessity breeds innovation or something like that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sometimes you got to have that gun to your head.
Well, you got to move. You got to move, right?
You gotta move. Sometimes necessity brings the best work.
Yep.
The Touch of Evil by Orson Welles.
Yep.
So what are some factors that we haven't talked about that maybe consumers out there listening? I do notice on your website you have a homeowner section and a broker section.
Yes.
So what else do we need to fill in about?
Really, the brokers are just pretty straightforward. We built that so brokers can get appointed. Homeowners really need to be, unlike in the past. And I'm sorry, it's involving consumers to be a little bit more aggressive into what they're looking at for their policies. They have to make sure. Chris, again, myth. There's no such thing. I'll bring a myth up. I see policies all the time at $200 a rebuild cost per square foot. There is nowhere in California you can rebuild a house for $200 a square foot.
Wow.
And so what happens is we're constantly helping. We're doing reviews, and we're helping even with the brokers. When the brokers come to us and we see some of the rates, we're like, hey, this area is more of a 600 or 800 a square foot. I mean, Chris, we had one we couldn't believe, because our minimum for our WOWS program is a rebuild of $4.5 million. We have other programs that are lower than that we can get consumers to. Mm-hmm. $4.5 million or larger. It was a house in Montecito. It was a 3,600 square foot house. The broker said it should fit our program. This is over 1,000 a square foot. We said, we don't believe it is. They sent us an inspection report showing $1,800 a square foot to rebuild.
$1,800.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So we're running into the problems at the same time.
You know, I remember in Vegas when the crash came, just before the crash, everyone was bragging about how, you know, $200 a square foot was the going rate, and it was so high at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was the peak before the crash.
Chris, to your point, it's crazy. I mean, the cost of rebuilds has exploded, and what's really scary is
burn it down and start over. Wait, that's a mob thing. Don't do that, folks. I'm kidding.
No, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
So the really crazy part of what we get into, though, Chris, is when we really start talking about this, is really you get into, you know, obviously exploding rebuild costs, but really what gets scarier, like the Malibu fire I use a lot because I lived through it. Yeah. I lived in the city of Westlake Village where the fire blew through. What's really crazy about this whole mod is when you lose 600 homes in an area, what ends up happening is the cost is a rebuild exponentially spikes. So on top of seeing rates going up to rebuild, when you have a shock loss, I call it a shock loss, you can see rates even get higher. There's a lot of consumers that are just getting stuck at this point. Wow. You know, getting stuck without, you know, it's bad enough to have your house burned. I mean, it's one of the most tragic things besides the death of a really close family member. It's a close second. Think about it, Chris. If you and I are hanging out, we're having a beer somewhere, okay, and God forbid my house burns to the ground. I mean, this is the shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah,
I don't have another pair of shoes.
Yeah, it's not
think of all the things that you had that you. I mean, people talk about their memorabilia of their life.
Yeah, the memorabilia is the big thing. Photos.
It's all gone. I don't care how great the insurance is. It's gone. And so, you know, it's what consumers need to do. You have to get ready. I mean, you know, it used to be, oh, well, unless you're the cliffs of Malibu, you don't have to worry about these things, right? Now, fire zones are throughout California, and not just California, the Western United States.
Yeah,
it's multiplying. So
it seems a lot of this is tied to global warming and the changes that are coming from global. And if you don't want to call it that, you can say there's something going on with the weather for sure. I mean,
well, and there's a whole host of things. I mean, you know, so I'm a study of history, right? Those who study history are doomed to repeat it. So we had in the different Indian tribes that lived in California prior to us being here. Okay. Chumash, different tribes. Do you know what they did every time? They would move from one camp to the next camp, or they go their winter to spring camps.
What?
They lit everything on fire. They burned everything.
Huh.
And the reason for it is the fact that there's certain plants, actually, it's kind of a scary study of this, that don't release seeds unless a fire happens.
Huh.
And so what happens is in California and in a lot of places in the Western United States, we have not been doing the maintaining or really control burns or things of that nature to help revitalize the soil or things of that nature. I mean, it was the sad byproduct of Malibu after the Malibu fire was, I mean, that next spring, look, there were plants they hadn't seen in 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And so, I mean, really what it is it's more of a whole look. It's not just an insurance look. We're in the process of building a nonprofit right now. That's part of being in the WOWS program. And where that's going to really step into play is helping communities and areas really get involved in getting into it's just preparation, protecting. It's not a question of if there's going to be fires. It's just when and where.
Ah, there you go.
That's it.
I know that at one point they used to like do some of that burning and seeding, and then I think the fires got out of control, and they're like, well, this is dumb. And then, but it's all over the place. Yeah, there's definitely something happening with the weather. I mean, I've noticed it. We just went through like probably the hottest. It was almost like living in Vegas when visiting Utah.
Yep.
And this summer, and I could not get my body to change. But yeah, what are some other aspects we haven't talked about that we need to cover?
Really is just getting into the consumer side of getting rid of myths, getting rid of what's going on in the market, being told certain things, really for consumers to do their research, but realize though, help's coming, Chris. That's what I keep saying to everybody. With what we're building and what we're doing, this is not just a California thing. You're in Utah, as that you just mentioned, correct? You're going to see different areas. You're going to see different states that are going to start mimicking the direction of what we're helping them build, because it's a all hands on deck, as I mentioned to you earlier. Everyone involved.
Yeah. All hands on deck. There you go. Yep. I mean, this is something I'm really surprised more politicians, legislatures don't seem to be addressing, but maybe the reason they're not doing that is because of like what you're talking about. It's hard to see solutions at this point, I guess.
Yeah. And it's pretty straightforward. I mean, what I'm doing, Chris, it's a great program. It reverse engineers. It builds it based on portfolios. It spreads risks. It spreads the insurance companies out. That's what they really need, Chris, is the ability to spread their risks. And if you do that, that brings insurance carriers back into the market and helps push down and actually build rate to be able to bring rates down. And that's it.
It's just challenging. We were talking before the show. There's a photo of LA right now where you can see the city. It's like a city view of the whole valley, and then you can see the fires behind it. It almost looks like LA in hell. There's probably a song for that, maybe. I don't know.
I'm sure it's an AC/DC song or something.
Probably, yeah. LA in hell.
Right? You kind of threw it in there.
Yeah, the right wing's going to have fun with that one. Yeah, see everything's burning in California.
Well, and with that being said, again, it's not just a California thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Florida, and I know it's huge in Florida.
Florida's the water, obviously, which is really pretty wild when you get into it, because you look at how they build insurance. And that was when I did this and we launched the WOW side of it, was really, there was an idea or program built, and it was kind of a really interesting thing, Chris, when you build something. Being in the field, being in every major fire in California, to then actually spend the money to verify that what your theory is. So we've had actuarial numbers put together for all the processes of what we do, and the numbers are staggering difference. There's a staggering difference to market by spread of risk and how we re-engineer the insurance. That's what's got the reinsurance companies on the hook, looking at what we're doing right now and wanting to participate with our WOWS program.
There you go. Yeah. So final thoughts as we go out. Tell people your final pitch. I imagine more people want to shop around more. They want to, investigate services like yours. Don't just take the, when you get some sort of massive increase, I guess, in the mail of your insurance company going, we're going to take and do. Give us the final pitch out as we go out.
Final pitch is just really to everyone out there listening. You've got to be in the front of looking at your insurance rates and looking what's going on. There are no guarantees of renewals any longer. In most of the Western United States, there's a lot of areas that are getting hit pretty hard. Getting out in front, knowing what the story is, and getting to the right people. Listen, we appoint brokers throughout California. There's a lot of great brokers across California that are really aggressive on the front part of it, make sure they help consumers. And there's some that just want to mail you a renewal and not talk to you. Knowing the difference really makes a difference at this point of having really someone represent you.
There you go. So it's been wonderful to have you on and very insightful. And hopefully, you can bring the change and innovation that this industry needs, and that we can, get back on it. It's been so cataclysmic since COVID, because it seemed to have just shaken everything. It just seemed like a norm. And, insurance, you never really thought about it. You're just like, it's always there. It's always, do the thing. It's pretty cheap. The car insurance went through the roof. Car prices, it's just everything, just like, and supply chains. But when you recover from something like what we did with COVID, it was so disruptive. It's gonna wreak some havoc for a while, and you're gonna feel the effects. So it's interesting to me how people don't get that aspect, but there you go.
Well, that's it, Chris. You nailed it. You nailed it right there. And the thing is, though, it's not a question of if, Chris. We're going to fix this. It's not a question of if. Everyone needs to hear that out there right now. I joke around in meetings. I walk in. It is, yes, we're fixing this.
There you go. Well, I love it. This is the great thing about entrepreneurs and innovation and everything else. There's always a better way to build a widget, and sometimes necessity is the greatest creator of innovation.
Better mousetrap. Better mousetrap.
The better mousetrap. Sometimes having that gun to your head helps.
It does. It makes you move. It makes you move faster.
It does. You're like, hey, I should probably do something about this. When previously you were just ignoring it. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Give us your .com more, Robert, as we go out.
You can email me. Anyone out there wants to email me direct, you can email me at robert@wows, WOWS, insurance.com. You can also see our website that Chris has mentioned many times on it is WOWS, WOWS, insurance.com.
There you go. Thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Robert. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. And that's